Hi everyone, this is Vipin Kumar here. I welcome back all of you on my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to discuss the concept of degrees of freedom, which is an important topic of mechanical vibration. So, we'll be learning about how to determine the degrees of freedom of a given system. Okay, so there is a sure short way of finding out this, and we are going to discuss that in this video. With this, I'd like to start. Okay, so you must have heard about the systems uh, of 1 degree of freedom system, 2 degree of freedom system, or multi degree of freedom system. Okay, so you might be confused how to determine this 1, 2, or m degree of freedom system for a given system just looking at by just looking at the system. Okay, so there is your short way of finding out this, that degree of freedom of a system can be determined by the number of masses in the system multiplied with number of possible ways of motion. Okay, so how to understand this? Let's say there is an example of there is a block of mass m. Okay, so if let's say it is connected to a spring on this side and on the spring on this side also, like this. So this mass is basically able to move into y direction as well, into x direction as well. Okay, and it is having a single mass. So according to this statement, what we can say, number of masses number of masses 1, number of masses 1 multiplied with the number of possible ways, which are 2. So this system will be falling in the category of 2 degree of freedom system. Okay, now let's suppose there is a restriction of movement of this block into y direction and only this is able to move into x direction. Then this system, the same mass, will be having single degree of freedom. Okay, because number of mass is 1 and number of possible ways also is 1. So 1 degree of freedom. And if the same mass is able to move into x direction, y direction, as well as z direction, so that means a single mass multiplied with 3 possible ways, so 3 degree of freedom system. Okay, so 3 degree of freedom and 2 degree of freedom systems are basically falling in the category of multi degree of freedom systems. Now let's take another example where the masses are more than 1. So there is a system, a spring mass system, which is the standard system of vibrating systems. So let's say there are masses like this, m1, m2, okay, which are connected to the springs. So these masses are moving into x direction with the displacement x1 and x2. So here you can see clearly that number of masses are 2, and if we talk about the number of possible ways of motion, so there is only one direction in which they can move, that is the x direction. That means 2 multiplied with 1, so again it is 2 degree of freedom system. Two masses are there, 2 degree of freedom system. Even single mass with 2 different ways of motion is also 2 degree of freedom system. Okay, so that's how we can say the degree of freedom of a system basically depends on the masses as well as the number of possible ways of the motion. I hope this concept of degrees of freedom is now very clear to all of you. And if additionally, let's say these were the examples of linear systems, the translational motion. If we talk about the rotational motion, so the best example of rotational motion can be a simple pendulum. Okay, so let's say this is a small mass, this is a bob which is having mass m, and it is moving into this direction. Okay, it is performing a simple harmonic motion, and this mass, let's say, is moving only in one plane, in this rotational plane, and with angle theta. Okay, this theta is variable at different times and different instant of time, it is different value. Okay, so number of masses here is 1, and number of coordinate or number of possible ways is also 1, because this is moving in this single plane at different angles, but the plane is single. So we can say this is single degree of freedom system. Okay, but if let's say there is one more mass added, to this here, so what would be the movement of this now? So movement would be something like this. Okay, m1, m2. So still the plane of motion is same, so that means two masses multiplied with one way of number of possible ways of motion is 1. So again still it is 2 degree of freedom system. Okay, now let's just imagine if this single mass is able to move in theta direction as well as in phi direction. So phi direction is basically the plane which is perpendicular to the plane of theta. So let's say this plane. So one circular motion is like this and one circular motion in this plane. Okay, so one is this, one is just, let's say, in this plane like this. Okay, so two different planes which are perpendicular to each other. So if this mass is able to move into both the planes at the same time, so what will be the degree of freedom of this system? So degree of freedom of this system would be number of mass is 1 and number of possible ways is 2. So 2 degree of freedom system. I hope now it is clear how to determine the degree of freedom of a given system. Okay, so with this I'd like to stop this video here, and before that I would like to request all of you to share this video as much as you can, so that it should reach to your friends who are preparing for GATE exam and who are doing, especially for those who are preparing GATE exam with self study. Okay, so thank you guys and take care.